Gucci, Gucci 2 times, say it 2 times. Gucci, Gucci 2 times, say it 2 times. Gucci, Gucci 2 times.
Rosie O'Donnell declares war on Ben Shapiro? And this one is ugly. Ben is here exclusively to respond to Rosie. That is coming up. A Twitter war breaking out between two prominent voices on the left and the right. It all started with Rosie O'Donnell's suggestion that she would bribe lawmakers to vote against the tax bill. Ben Shapiro wasn't having it, saying that's a violation of federal law. From there, things got increasingly, well, personal, with O'Donnell telling Shapiro to do things that we can't say here on television, prompting Shapiro to send out this tweet today, just reported Rosie for targeted harassment, mainly to see if Twitter does indeed have a double standard. Everyone knows if Rosie were conservative, Twitter would suspend her in a hot second. So Twitter, put your money where your mouth is, #MeToo. Rosie replied simply, "Oh, Ben." Shapiro's response, "Rosie, all victims deserve to be believed." And the story doesn't end there. Joining us now in an exclusive interview, Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire. Now, I know you just heard from Twitter. I want you to hold on to that for 1 second, just so we can make sure everybody's up to speed. Her original tweet, which I saw fly by too, where she says $2 million to Senator Susan Collins, Senator Jeff Flake, if they vote no. No, I will not kill Americans. That's what she tweeted. I don't know how this is killing Americans, but that's okay. For the sour rich, I think it was supposed to say super, but she was impaired in some way while doing this, probably with her fingers. DM me, Susan, DM me, Jeff. You responded that if Trump orders Sessions to investigate Rosie, he will be carved into Rushmore by Friday, which I thought was a pretty good burn. But what inspired you to pile on this mess? Because it was already out of control.
Well, I mean, it was obvious that she had actually violated, at least formally, 18 U.S.C. 210, 201,
they can't bribe officials.
Yeah, exactly. A specific provision of the U.S. Code, and in doing so, she had done this on Twitter, and so I sort of piled on a little bit, and she responded by essentially telling me to perform an anatomical act on her that certainly would fall under Me Too sexual harassment. So, but what was weird about it is that she told me to perform it on a male appendage of hers.
Well,
so that was. It was weird.
Let's not get into that, because
it was
people could be
not
having
great.
Dinner right now.
I think that's probably smart, and so I responded by essentially saying that she was already a felon. There was no need to make herself into a homophobic sexual harasser as well. So things sort of degenerated from there.
Yeah, absolutely. But the serious part of this is that she told you to do things to her that, of course, Harvey Weinstein and lots of people are in trouble for trying to get people to do to them. And if there was, I mean, if a man said this to a woman, you say conservative versus liberal. But if any of the normal tables were turned, people would recoil in horror and just would really be on your side, but not this time.
No question. I mean, if I had said exactly the same words to Rosie O'Donnell that she said to me on Twitter, I have very little doubt that I would have been suspended or expelled from Twitter for targeted harassment or abuse under their rules. So I decided to find out exactly how Twitter operated. And so I reported her for targeted harassment and abuse. And then I have now received back their notice that apparently there was no violation of the Twitter rules, which is astonishing. They say that she did not actually perform behavior that crosses the line into abuse. Which I totally understand why we can't read these tweets on air, because they're really obscene and abusive. But that's why Twitter probably should have done something if they cared about enforcing their own rules. I actually don't want Rosie O'Donnell tossed off Twitter. I find her far too amusing, and I'm sad that she blocked me today. But that said, I think that Twitter should be held to account for its own enforcement of the rules, because it's wildly inconsistent. Yeah, look, we're looking right there where you can see that Rosie blocked you.
It does seem very hypocritical on Twitter's part, which is sort of the focus, because Rosie has gone off a bunch of times before. I mean, she has a long Twitter history. Some of her best times were during the debates, where she called President Trump all kinds of names, comparing him to body parts, saying how orange he was, talking about his appearance. I mean, again, things that if tweeted at a woman, or if tweeted at Hillary Clinton about her appearance, people would be all up in arms. But this is what she was doing to Donald Trump. She even said he was like the snake oil salesman from Little House on the Prairie, which I kind of liked for obvious reasons. But all these things going on, she's on Twitter, but Twitter does nothing about it when she attacks someone with what should be sexual harassment. Do they have a track record of banning other people for saying things like this, though?
Well, I mean, they do have a track record of at least blocking people's tweets that are considered abusive or suspending people who are abusive. And they have a track record of going after people for political reasons as well. Again, their terms of service suggest that you are not allowed to issue tweets like this, but they have a rather arbitrary standard, obviously, for what they choose to enforce or not enforce. My guess is that they didn't want to open the can of worms that would have necessitated opening in order to take any action against Rosie O'Donnell for suggesting that I do certain things to her, which is horrifying.
I'm still stuck on the fact that she seemed very sincere in the fact when she went on originally and she tweeted long tweets about exactly how much money she wanted to give for them to vote no and DM me. And I mean, she sounded very serious. So I don't know. There's a lot of debate right now about whether or not that's a violation of the law since it was on Twitter. We'll see. Ben Shapiro, hat tip to you, my friend. Thank you for coming on.
Good to see you. Thanks.
Well, now that we have that solved, we'll move on to something a little merrier. We'll be right back.
To be counterproductive, but kill the bill, don't kill us. I mean, it just demonstrates the extent to which the left has lost its mind. One of the people who's lost her mind, obviously, is Rosie O'Donnell. She didn't have much of a mind left to lose, sadly, but Rosie O'Donnell tweeted this out. She tweeted out, so how about this? I promise to give $2 million to Senator Susan Collins and $2 million to Senator Jeff Flake if they vote no. No, I will not kill Americans for the sewer rich. She meant to write super, but she can't type. It's S-U-O-E-R, rich. DM me, Susan. DM me, Jeff. No bleep. $2 million. Cash. Each. It's like E.E. Cummings for the mentally deficient. So well done there, Rosie O'Donnell. This, by the way, is technically under federal law bribery. So under 18 U.S.C., I believe the actual statute is 18 U.S.C. 201B. It says, quote, whoever directly or indirectly corruptly gives, offers, or promises anything of value to any public official or person who has been selected to be a public official, or offers or promises any public official or any person who has been selected to be a public official to give anything of value to any other person or entity with intent to influence any official act, shall be fined under this title not more than 3 times the monetary equivalent of the thing of value, whichever is greater, or imprisoned for not more than 15 years or both, and may be disqualified from holding any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. So she's openly offering $4 million to Republican senators for them to change their vote, which is bribery under federal law. She's doing that in front of apparently 32,000 likes. So that you know, I guess she must be willing to pay $12 million to the federal government. I said earlier, if President Trump tells Jeff Sessions to initiate a prosecution against Rosie O'Donnell, they will begin carving his face into Rushmore tomorrow. Right? I mean, he will immediately move to the list of the nation's greatest presidents if he initiates prosecution against Rosie O'Donnell for bribery. So I tweeted out, half jokingly this morning, lock her up, lock her up. And Rosie O'Donnell got mad, and she tweeted back at me, suck my bleep, Ben, which doesn't make sense for a variety of reasons as far as I'm aware. And so I tweeted back at her, you're already a felon, Rosie. Don't be a homophobic sexual harasser, too. And then I followed it up with hashtag me too. So that is my A+ troll game right there, gang. That is the troll is strong with me today. So Rosie O'Donnell, just making a fool of herself as always. And she's not the only one who's going nuts. The Democrats, of course, are going completely nuts as well. The House passed the act, and Paul Ryan brought out the giant gavel. He brought out the enormous gavel. I guess they have this giant ceremonial gavel that they bring out for important occasions and also for sex parties. And so Paul Ryan dragged that sucker out of storage when Nancy Pelosi stood there with the giant gavel when she first became speaker, and she had a bunch of children she hadn't aborted standing around her. He brought that out of storage, and he was whacking that on the podium as they passed it. Here was the video of them passing this thing in the House yesterday.
On this vote, the yeas are 227 and the nays are 203. The conference report is adopted without objection. The motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
Okay, so that is a big win for Paul Ryan. It's a big win for the House. It's a big win for the Republican Senate. And it's a big win for President Trump. It is a big win for President Trump. Without this win, he does not have a signature legislative achievement his entire first year. Right? Without that win, the biggest things that he's done this year are Justice Gorsuch and the movement of the embassy to Jerusalem and the filling of the appellate judges. I talked in the last podcast about all of the things that I think Trump has done right. But this is a signature achievement in his first year, and he needed one, right? For Obama, he had several. He had the Lilly Ledbetter Act, and then it took a year and a half, but he got Obamacare. He had passed the stimulus package, which was really his big achievement in his first year. George W. Bush passed tax cuts, I believe, in the middle of year one. So Trump needed this. He needed it pretty badly, and he deserves to be able to celebrate about it. Paul Ryan says this is a profound change to the tax system. Here's what he had to say.
This is one of the most important pieces of legislation that Congress has passed in decades to help the American worker, to help grow the American economy. This is profound change, and this is change that is going to put our country on the right path.
Okay, so the Democrats, of course, went completely nuts because their basic belief system suggests that you don't own your own money, right? That any tax cut to you keeping more of your own money, is actually theft from the federal coffers. And this just, it demonstrates the genuine disconnect as far as what Republicans and Democrats think in terms of where your rights come from. The Democrats believe that your rights come from government. Your right to have property is because the government has allowed you to have property. If it weren't for the government allowing you to have property, you wouldn't have property, right? This is the Elizabeth Warren, Barack Obama view that you didn't build that, right? Your property rights are based on a government that makes those property rights available to you. The Republican notion, the conservative founding notion, is that property rights predated government, that government was instituted in order to protect those property rights, and that if the government violates those property rights, it has lost its raison d'etre. It's lost the reason for